right, now we're going to solve some inequalities. Inequalities are the same as equations, but they have less thans and greater thans. So you're going to solve these exactly as you would solve any equation. You're going to multiply or divide. If you're going to multiply or divide by a negative number, that means the coefficient of the variable is negative, then you need to flip the inequality symbol. Solutions are usually written in interval notation. That means smallest number, largest number, and we're going to talk about that as we're doing the problems. So the first thing we're going to do is just talk about how to write this interval notation. I don't know why the blocks are blue, but they are. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go back to the old days and we're going to graph x is less than 7. So if you want to be picky, there's 0, there's 7. I'm not that picky. I don't put 0 on there. I don't even put 7 over there. I just put 7 right in the middle of my number line because that's the only number I care about. When it says x is less than 7, if you're talking integers, that means the numbers that would work would be 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So in the olden days, we would put, I don't know what colors work here. Let's try red. We would put an open circle here and we would color or shade all the numbers over here less than 7. So that's showing us that any number less than 7 is going to be a solution. 7 is not, but 6.999999999999999 is. Now to write this in interval notation, the smallest number that works is actually not a number at all. It's a concept. It's called negative infinity. The biggest number that works is 7. Well, we just said it's not 7. So to say it's not 7, we're going to put it in parentheses. Anytime you have anytime you have infinity or negative infinity, you're going to use parentheses. Okay? So what parentheses are, either parentheses this way or this way, relates to an open circle. If you have a closed circle, you're going to use brackets, either that bracket or this bracket, depending on which side of the number you're going, to the left or to the right. So let's look at this one. This time I've got 7 again, but I want the numbers greater than 7. I do not want to include 7, but I want to include all the numbers bigger than 7. So when I write my interval, my first number is 7, not included. That means 7.000000001 works. And I go all the way to infinity. Infinity is always a parenthesis because it's a concept, not a number. For the next one, I'm going to do 7 again, but this time I want the numbers less than or equal to 7. So this time I'm going to go ahead and include, well, no, that doesn't work. Let's change colors. I'm going to include 7. I haven't decided on a color yet, can you tell? I'm going to include 7 and I want the numbers less than 7. So that means I'm going to start at negative infinity. I'm going to go to 7, but this time I'm going to include it, so it's going to be a bracket instead of a parenthesis. X is greater than or equal to 7. This time 7 is included, and I want to go to the numbers greater than. So 7's my smallest number, infinity is my biggest because that's my concept there, remember? So it's a parenthesis. 7 is included, so it's a bracket. Now look at this little x. If you look at this, it looks like you're going to smaller than 2 and bigger than 7, but no. What this is saying is 2 is your smallest number, 7 is your biggest number, and that little x guy is trapped in the middle. We read this as 2 is less than x, and x is less than or equal to 7. So less than is an open circle, less than or equal to is a closed circle. Smallest number 2, biggest number 7. 2 is not included, 7 is. Okay, so now if we look at the next one, we're looking at an x in between again. It's between 2 and 7. Between means in the middle. 2 is included, 7 is not. So this time 2 is my smallest number, 7 is my bigger. 2 is included, 7 is not. When we are solving these, we're going to solve them just like in a regular equation. So when I look at the left-hand side, that's where my minus is. To get rid of a minus 8, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Okay? Negative 8 and positive 8 cancel. M, bring down the symbol, is greater than negative 4. Okay, in order to get the inequality, I'm one of these people who has to graph it, kind of visual person. So there's negative 4. It cannot equal negative 4, but it can be greater than negative 4. So my interval is going to go from negative 4, it's going to be a parenthesis because it's not included, to infinity, which is always a parenthesis. If you have trouble trying to figure out which way you want to graph these, whether you want to shade to the left or shade to the right, and you have trouble with your less than and greater thans, look at the little dots. You've got 2 dots and 1 dot. If the variable has the 2 dots, 2 is bigger than 1, so that means you want to go to the bigger numbers, which are to the right. If the variable has the 1 little dot, the 1 little point, 1 smaller than 2, so you want to go to your left. You can actually follow and make an arrow out of the less than or greater than if the variable's on the left. If the variable's not on the left, it's going backwards. So when I look at this next one, all I have is multiplication. I don't have any plus or minus, so I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 6. When you divide, I don't know what's happening here. When you divide, that's when you decide. What are you going to decide? Do you flip the sign? The number you're dividing by, if it is negative, you flip the sign. It's not negative, not flipping. Cancel these 6's. R is going to be less than negative 6. Again, I'm going to graph this. Can't equal negative 6. We want the R's less than negative 6. So we're going to start with negative infinity. We're going to end with negative 6, and it's going to be a parenthesis because it's not included. Okay, so this next one, you know I don't like that negative in the middle of the air, and I don't like that W without a number. So I'm going to do negative 1W over 4 is less than or equal to negative 7. Options. You can take negative 1W over 4 less than or equal to negative 7 and multiply by the reciprocal, which would be negative 4 over 1. So this is the number you're deciding with. Because it is negative, the ones, everybody cancels there. Because it is negative, you are going to flip the sign when you multiply. Your other option is, you leave the negative 1W over 4, the less than or equal to. Turn negative 7 into a fraction so you have a proportion. Now when you do this, you've got to go, this is important, you've got to go from the top left to the bottom right. It has to go in that order. That's going to include the sign. So negative 1W times 1 is negative 1W. Bring down that sign. And then 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Now you're going to divide by negative 1. When you divide, that's when you decide. This one did say it was divided by a negative, so you're going to flip. Both cases give you W is greater than or equal to 28. Greater than or equal to is a closed circle. Greater than goes to the right. So our interval is going to be 28 included to infinity, which is always a parenthesis. All right, that one's a rough one. This one's not so bad. Left-hand side, I got a minus 15, so I'm going to add 15 to both sides. I'm going to cancel. I get 4x is less than or equal to 36. Down to multiplication, I'm going to divide by 4. This is when I decide. I'm not going to flip because it's not negative. So I get x is less than or equal to 9. Less than or equal to means I include 9. Less than means I go to the left. So my interval is going to be negative infinity to 9. 9 is going to be a bracket because it's included. All right, so on this next one, I'm going to look at the right-hand side, and I am going to have to distribute. So 5 times 2z is 10z. 5 times negative 11 is negative 55. This one's rough. Over here is where my plus or minus is. This is a number, variable, number. So I'm going to add 55. I'm going to move the number term. Negative 16 plus 55. Well, I'm using my calculator, guys. I'm cheating. Negative 16 plus 55. Oh, sugar. Is 39. Oh, that would have been easier to use my fingers. Greater than or equal to 10c. I'm going to divide by 10. When I divide, that's when I decide. This is not a flip. No flip because it's not negative. 39 divided by 10 is just 39 over 10. Didn't do any flipping. Those cancel and I have z. So I can put 39 over 10. Now, a little piece of secrets here. 39 over 10 is the same as 3 and 9/10, which is the same as 3.9. Any of those would work there, okay? I'm going to have a closed because it's included. Now, this is where I've got to be careful. I read from the z, so I'm reading this way. Z has the little point. That means I want the numbers less than the given number. So my interval is going to be negative infinity to 39 over 10, which is included. That one's rough, 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 rough. All right, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and do the proportion method because it's my personal favorite. I'm going to go from the top left to the bottom right. I'm going to be very careful with my bubble that I don't lose that negative. 3x times 1 is 3x. Keep that same sign. 4 times negative 16 is negative 64. So when I divide by 3, this is when I decide my answer is no, because remember it's the number I divide by. So I keep x is greater than or equal to. Negative 64 over 3 does not reduce. It's just negative 64 over 3. So I'm going to put negative 64 over 3 on my little number line. I'm going to include it. X needs to be greater, so I'm going to go to the right. So my interval is going to be negative 64 over 3 all the way to infinity. Negative 64 over 3 has a bracket because it is included. Okay, next slide. Don't know why I left so much room, but let's go with this method. This is where I really like this method. Top left to bottom right, being very neat, not to lose any negatives. 1 times n plus 3, bring down that same sign, and then 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. 1 times n is 1n, 1 times 3 is 3, is greater than negative 12. I have a two-step equation, so I'm going to subtract 3. Those cancel, so I have n is less than negative 15. Open circle, because there's not an included. N has the little point. I want the numbers less than. So my interval is going to be negative infinity to negative 15 with a parenthesis. Okay, then we have to get a little messy. This one you might want to automatically zoom into proportion. Do not do that. Look over here. This minus 8 needs to be taken care of. It's not part of the fraction. It's a separate minus 8. So I need to move it to the other side by adding 8. They cancel. So I get 3y minus 4 all over 2 is greater than 20. At this point, I'm going to put it over 1. And I'm going to make that first bubble. I'm a one bubble girl. And I get 1 times 3y minus 4. Keep the sign. 2 times 20 is 40. When I distribute, 3y minus 4 is greater than 40. I'm out of room. So 3y minus 4 is greater than 40. I got to take care of that minus 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. They cancel. I get 3y is greater than 44. When I divide, that's when I decide, no, I am not going to flip the sign. So y is greater than 44 over 3. Again, that does not reduce, so I'm going to leave it as 44 over 3. open circle because it's not included. Y is greater than. So my inequality is going to be 44 over 3, not included, to infinity. And that is how you solve an inequality.